Welcome back to another edition of the Global Sport in Colour Voice Newspaper Sports Magazine show. I'm here with Michael Facey, Rodney Hines, Nothing Long TV, sports editor at the Voice Newspaper. We're at the Oval again. Glorious day.
Glorious. Cricket weather at last.
Cricket weather at last.
You had coats last week.
We did, didn't we?
Yeah, we did.
I had my coat on. You might have noticed. There's some nets in the background. You can't quite catch it in the shot, but I really want to go over there and show them that I still got it. You know, I play straight. Yeah, play straight. Rod's cricket very much the order of the day. You in particular were telling me about an IPL fixture that caught your attention the other, which was quite spectacular in terms of the innings. Tell me a bit about that.
IPL, Indian Premier League, hasn't really been my thing over the years, but slowly but surely it's got into my psyche. And on Sunday I was at home and managed to catch the Kolkata Knight Riders. Their batsman Sunil Narine hit 50 in 15 deliveries. He took running out of the equation, and he's a bowler by trade. He's from Trinidad and Tobago. It was just glorious to see, and they won that game. And the IPL, as you mentioned, is just brewing up nicely. I think it ends next week sometime, so we can probably talk about it next week when we know who the finalists are.
It'd be great to see a game here, an IPL game here one day. I don't know if that's feasible, if that could ever really happen.
I think it'll happen. I know there's moves afoot to slightly tweak the NatWest T20 tournament that has been going for a few years. So I think IPL is the future of cricket.
Face, did you play cricket at school?
I did, and I told you, we had a conversation last week, innit? And the ball hit me in my eye in primary school, and that was it. Never done it again.
That's fair enough. It's a hard ball. It's a hard ball. Listen, regular Voice newspaper readers will be happy to know that there's going to be a Surrey feature coming soon. Talk me about that, Rod.
One of our cricket writers, John Porch, he's done a piece, there's the 100th Test match here later in the summer. He's done a piece on the synergy between Surrey, the Oval and the West Indies. That synergy has disappeared over the years because the West Indies don't win Test matches anymore. But if you said, where is there a home ground for the West Indies cricket team, win, lose or draw, it's here in South London.
As you can see, the Hello Turf is behind us, and we apologise for the guy cutting the grass, but he's got to look after it. He's got to look after it, and he's done a great job as well.
Could you literally eat off here looking at it at the moment?
Listen, he's fantastic. I'd love to play a charity match here or something like that. I must organise that if we can later on in the year.
Bring us in.
It's the only way I'm going to get out in the middle, Rod. It's the only way I'm going to get out in the middle.
It's our 35th birthday at The Voice this year, so we might be able to arrange something.
All things are possible.
I might come out of retirement.
What, are you sure you weren't going to be scared of the ball, Mike?
I don't know now. I'm a big man now, so who knows?
All right, listen, let's move on. Formula One this weekend. Lewis Hamilton goes to, I say Lewis Hamilton, all drivers go to Barcelona. You can tell who my favourite driver is, can't you? They all head to Barcelona. A pretty important weekend for Mercedes, pretty important weekend for Lewis personally. Hasn't done so well of late. A few points behind. We don't want that gap extending. Last year he didn't do so well at this circuit either. How do either of you see it?
Difficult circuit. Mercedes, unless they've had a couple of weeks, so hopefully they've put a few improvements into their motor. So who knows? It's close between Mercedes and Ferrari. So between any of the four drivers, they could win. Any of the four.
Quite literally what Mike said. I mean, listen, how many races we had? 3, 4 by now? We've had about 3, 4 different winners.
Yeah.
Bottas is now a winner.
Who would have saw that coming?
Yeah. So yeah, it's going to be interesting. I don't think it's settled down yet.
No.
I think you might get another winner this week that we've not had yet this season. Yeah. So I think the Formula One, which makes it great for us pundits and the public generally, hasn't settled down yet. There's no form to point to. If there is form, it's Vettel. But I think this could be a surprise. And what I would say, I think we touched on it before, Lewis just needs to be careful, because this is what happened to him last year. It was Rosberg who got away. And then when you try and reel them in midway through the season or towards the end, it's just a little bit, you've almost got to be perfect, and that's difficult to do.
And what's become more apparent is the Mercedes age-old problems come back with, if they're behind any cars, the heating problems are kicking in now. So it's good to see what they've done about it and what's going to happen.
The heating problem, I think Barcelona is a good race because they all go there for testing, right? So they're all used to the track. Mercedes done well there during testing early in the season. Put in some good laps, showed some great reliability. The overheating issues don't seem to affect them there. So I don't think that'll be a problem this week. It'll be about who has the best weekend from practice to qualifying to the actual race itself. So good luck to Lewis, good luck to all the drivers. Hopefully they'll come through safely, and I think it's going to be another instalment on what is going to be a great season. I think we've said that already. Moving on to our favourite subject, boys. Bit of football. Suleiman Tari. His name rang out in the headlines, a couple of weeks ago because he walked off the pitch in a game where he was getting racially abused. He saw that as the only way to, answer the big, the racists and all of those that were lambasting him with abuse. Was he right to walk off the pitch? He was booked when he was trying to educate the fans who were abusing him. The booking's since been overturned. The whole situation just seems to be handled wrong. I know this week the FIFA are in Bahrain, and there'll be a couple of journalists that apply their trade for The Voice and other places that will be putting the question to the powers that be. Are we dealing with this problem effectively?
Just the fact that Suleiman Tari, who was abused, had to undergo a sanction, which was, as you said, eventually overturned, tells me that some of these authorities simply don't get it. Do I agree with him walking off? Yeah, I've said it before. Summertime, wasp, bees. I've said it before. Yeah, why not? Why not? Because that's where the statement's made. And if you had a scenario, and I've said this over the years, that if Suleiman Tari was joined by his teammates, the authorities, the sponsors, the broadcasters are going to be in a little bit of a scenario because there's no football to be played, and then people might start listening. Well done to him. He's been around the block, Ghanaian international. He's talking about setting something up with players as we move forward. But yeah, I think he was right to walk off. But the fact that he got a sanction that was just overturned tells me all you need to know about this subject. Some of these authorities simply don't get it.
I think I slightly agree with you, because my initial was he shouldn't have walked off alone. I do agree with your point that really should have got the group together and said, I'm not doing this, we're not playing. We're not playing. And done it like that.
But the group could have joined him.
They could have, yeah, but there's, the element of the professionalism has to be there at some degree, and I think, I'm not saying stay there and take abuse because you're a professional. I think there just has to be I just think more people need to collectively get involved and work it out.
If that scenario had happened in an office environment, office workers would have walked out, there would have been a tribunal.
There you go.
He was at his place of work.
What's interesting is that the referee, I think, came out afterwards, or there was some statement afterwards which said that not enough fans were racially abusing him, which is why the game wasn't stopped. There was no announcement over the tannoy. It was just a small pocket of fans. It is, but it isn't, because if it is only about 6 or 7 fans who Sully could hear in a stadium full of 30, 40,000 people, what do you do?
I've got something to say. Now, theoretically, if that's the case, Sully should go over to the ref. The ref should go stop the game, tell the stewards to get them out, and they can take those 6 or 7 out of the game, and then the game can continue, which is effectively what FIFA said should have happened. And because of that, and because that weren't happening, Sully took it in his own favour and said, I'm leaving the pitch then.
And he's taken it in his own favour because, as we know, over time, the authorities are not dealing with it properly.
Yeah.
If there was something laid down, some sort of criteria, don't forget Sully's pretty emotional at that time, and quite rightly so. And I don't think if you get abused by one person or 200 people, it makes any difference.
We don't want an Eric Cantona situation, do we?
We don't want it. So that means the authorities have to deal with it.
Yeah.
Eric dealt with it that night.
He did.
Incorrectly, but come on, let's be serious. Some people might have seen it, might have seen his point of view.
There's only so much certain people can take. Everybody has a different threshold. The wind's blowing us over here.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, it's blown away by the subject, isn't it? Let's move on to something of a lighter note. Still football. Big game this week. Chelsea could secure the title at West Bromwich Albion. There's all sorts of reports of West Bromwich Albion fans selling their tickets for £1,700, £2,000.
I was there, moment.
Well, apparently the authorities have put down strict instructions to make sure that doesn't happen. They deserve it, don't they, Chelsea?
If they get the 3 points against West Brom, they've got 3 games to get 3 points. That's a wonderful position to be in.
Sure, every game.
Yeah, totally professional against a very poor Middlesbrough team. But as I said last week, I think it was the big win against Everton that gave them that momentum. I think that was a squeaky bum time moment at Goodison Park. They overcame that. And then, of course, Tottenham didn't deliver on the Friday previous against West Ham. Against a West Ham team that, for me, played like they were in the Champions League final. Yeah. If they played like that for most of the games, they wouldn't have had the challenges they've had all season.
That's not really the case,
but, Tottenham turned up in dire need of the points. West Ham, can you imagine the West Ham dressing room? And I think that performance came out of West Ham. So,
question for you, Campbell, with your beloved Tottenham. Can they handle squeaky bum time? This is the second time round. So you answer me that.
Are you suggesting that they bottled it, Michael? Are you suggesting that they bottled it?
Potentially.
Listen, they went on an 8-game unbeaten winning run, multiple clean sheets. They had to lose at some point. They had to negotiate a couple of derbies and actually Man United, in the last home game at White Hart Lane. There was always going to be a moment where Tottenham dropped points in this running.
It's a little bit more painful, closer to the finishing line.
Definitely, and the thing is, that is when people will notice and remember it the most, isn't it? Because it happened this time last year.
And the nature of the opposition as well.
Yeah, of course.
The West Ham team that have been fighting relegation lost.
Well, they needed that to make them safe.
Absolutely. What I would say is, Tottenham's run, you just outlined it. It just shows you almost have to be perfect to win the Premier League. And Chelsea weren't they? You did with the 8 games, you said. I think Chelsea went on 15 games, and that's the vital difference.
Well, it's funny. Antonio Conte pointed to the Man United loss at Old Trafford as a seminal moment for them in this closing run of the Premier League, because he said that they lost there. Then they had so many games in so many days, and then they had to play Tottenham again. And after in the FA Cup semi-final, that win gave them a lift. Since then they've been imperious, and I think that's everything's timing, isn't it?
Picking the right
games. And we talked about the Chelsea-Tottenham semi-final being seminal for whoever won it.
We did say that,
and the team that won it has taken that momentum.
Yeah.
And if it had been Tottenham, while we can't stand there and guarantee anything, it might have been that semi-final, even though it has nothing to do with the Premier League and points and tables, it just
those fine margins.
Just fine margins.
Listen, Tottenham best ever. If they finish second, best ever finish in the Premier League, best ever points haul already. Something to build on for Pochettino for next season. It's better than last season. He'll be there.
I heard they're poaching him. Someone's poaching him.
Who's someone though?
Someone. Barca's looking.
Daniel.
looking for
Yeah, they can all look. They can all look, and that's what's supposed to happen when a club does as well as we've done. You're supposed to. You're supposed to. Listen, don't be silly. You're supposed to attract the attention of the world. Let's look at some of the fixtures this weekend, Rods. What are your thoughts, mate? Game to watch?
Well, obviously West Brom, Chelsea. There won't be any trophy presentation if Chelsea get those 3 points. I think they've got a home game against Watford coming up that you'll go to. Then I think they've got a home game. They've got a home game against Sunderland. Watford and Sunderland. But knowing Chelsea, they'll get it done on Friday night. So that's the standout game.
Can they do the double? Well, let's get through the games first.
They can do the double. Obviously, then on Sunday we've got two very important games. We've got the final game at White Hart Lane, as Tottenham play Man United, and obviously you'll be there. And then we've got a 6-pointer at the bottom end of the table. Crystal Palace, who thought they were safe, took a beating against Manchester City over the weekend. Play Hull. Hull lost over the weekend as well. So that's a 6-pointer. Whoever wins that, especially if it's Palace, are safe. If Hull win it, Palace are back in the mire. So the football season isn't done yet. We've got about a few more weekends to go.
I agree with everything Rodney said. I think Chelsea, they should definitely take it home this weekend. It's going to be interesting. And United's coming to spoil your pie.
You can see Jose doing that.
We ain't got nothing. We ain't got the European excuse this week.
That's not, I'll tell you, if that happens, nothing can spoil the party, to be honest with you, though. Because it's been such a great season. Yeah, it has. It's been such a great season. It's unfortunate we fell short in the FA Cup, fell short in the league, but it's closer and closer.
The most difficult thing is to win silverware.
Listen, talking about winning silverware, I felt really, not bad, but I felt a little tinge of sadness for Chrissy Houghton for not finishing the season as champions. Right. And it just took the gloss off for me. I mean, so much. Exactly. But so much credit to him for what he's achieved. Fantastic. We're going to be at a celebratory event next week, all 3 of us. Are we working Thursday?
I'm not. It's my birthday, mate.
Not sure. But I mean, listen, they say Chris Houghton, one of the nicest men in football. But let's put that to one side. He is fantastic coach. Did it with Newcastle, done it now again with Brighton, and I certainly, for one, I'm having first dibs of those Brighton home games, if you don't mind. I might have to make weekends of them.
Well, that's going to be a nice little trip out of town, now, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Congratulations to Chris.
Definitely. Well done to Chris, and we'll hopefully, we might not bring you some footage from that next week. We'll see how it goes.